into it, Jeff. First team that we have up is going to be these guys, the Houston Texans. And you know what? I'm always blabbing off my mouth first. I'm going to let you kick this one off. But this team was 3-13-1, and it looked like they were going to be the team with the number one pick in the draft. But you know what? Lovie Smith decided to say, you know what? I'm not gonna go out as a loser, bro. I'm about to win this game. I don't care. I'm getting fired at the end of the night anyway. So who cares? You know what I mean? Let's go win the game. And that's exactly what they did. And now they had to pick the second, but they made a historic moment and they went and got the third pick as well too. And a lot of people really are kind of confused about how that worked. Anderson was always the pick. CJ Stroud was the luxury. You know what I mean? And if they weren't able to make that deal happen with the Cardinals, they weren't going to pick CJ Stroud. They always were going to get Anderson. But go ahead, Jeff. Just give us your analyst on what's going on with the Houston Texans this year. And from what I have here, they are a team that has an over under 6, and their odds to win the division is 7-1. So, what are your thoughts on them?
It's a division that when we put a team on top that's supposed to win the division that never does. Last year was the Colts. This year's the Jaguars. Obviously, 2 picks in the top 4. A rebuilding year, but I like the direction they're going. Running back with Pierce and obviously the rook quarterback, wide receiving core. I'm high on Nathaniel Dell, Tank, as I like to call him. He's had a great camp. Nico Collins, I've had since diapers, waiting. I've kind of veered to the right to Dell. I'm staying away from Collins. A defense that's going to give up a lot of points. Again, 3-13-1 last year. Don't have high hopes, but I like the direction they're going. How's that? I think they're going to be in a lot of high-scoring affairs. Will they finish last in this division? Yeah, most likely. I do think they will. But a promise, go back to the glory days with Watt and a few other big defensive players from USC. They built from the defense, and then offensively, Deshaun Watson, D-Hop. They're moving in that direction, Pops. Willie Anderson this year. They're going to be picking close from the front again next year. Don't have high hopes this year, but I like the direction they're going. How's that, Pops?
All right. Well, that's something that we can all agree upon, that they are going in the right direction and everything this year. And pretty much, you have a team that is, right now they're back to square one. It's almost like 2002 all over again when they came into the NFL. They're really building a brand new team here. They went and got 2 pillars of a franchise. You go get a franchise quarterback. And now it used to be the middle linebacker for the defensive side. That would be your captain of the defense. Now it's turned into the edge rusher, who's now your pinnacle of the defense. I wouldn't say they're going to be your leader of the defense, but they're your leader by example for the defense. Because usually if you have a great pass rusher, everybody else's life on defense is really easy. But if you have a great middle linebacker, everybody does their job accordingly. And that's one thing about this Houston team that you get a little excited about, because their head coach, guess what, was one of the better middle linebackers when he played in the NFL. And he was the middle linebacker for this defense that was a top 10 defense year in and year out when he was a part of that group. Demeco Ryans is a defensive genius, and we all know that. But we all are asking the question, is it too soon that he's a head coach now? And I look at this team and I say to myself that you have a lot of really good players on this roster that are young and upcoming. And do they have the dog in them, as we all like to say? You know what I mean? Do you have the dog in you? And I think that it will come down to this team being better as the season goes along. Like December, they'll be a much better team than they are in September. Okay. And I think that this team is very, very, they can be experimental this year. You know what I mean? And they don't have to rely on CJ Stroud carrying the offense. If I was going in here as the head coach of this team, I would want to more establish a running game, something that's going to make it really easy on our quarterback, because I feel like CJ Stroud is not a guy that can handle pressure. I feel like when the pressure really gets to the top level, he's not a guy that you can really trust. And the examples are all on the wall. And we could say this: Michigan's probably the closest thing in the Big Ten to NFL defense. And the way that he looked against Michigan both years, it goes to show you this might be his NFL career too. So that's where it's like we might have went a little bit over the top for a guy like CJ Stroud, because CJ Stroud might have the Gino Toretta syndrome, where you have a bunch of talented players with you and you just were fortunate. But he's a talented player. He's really good at what he does. But the entitlement part, I was with him during draft week, and I said that I wouldn't draft the guy, because I feel like he's being entitled to the league, entitled to the position. He thinks he's already going to be a Hall of Famer. It doesn't work like that. I'm not saying he's not putting in the work. I'm not saying that he's doing this, but you're thinking a little bit too ahead of yourself instead of just learning the process. And that's something that you can't be like with a team like the Texans, in my opinion. The Texans, you have to mature and you have to really learn the position. You really have to learn the league.
I'm smiling and laughing because this is making too much sense. If you go back to Joe Burrow and his first year, and everyone knows that they needed their offensive line was putrid, and they needed the left tackle, and there was the kid from Oregon, I think it was, and they took Jamar Chase. This writing's on the wall. Houston, I'm not saying they're going to tank, but they're going to be bad. They're not going to need a quarterback, and who's going to be sitting there when they're drafting in one of the top picks, but Marvin Harrison Jr. So instead of fixing the defense or the left or right tackle, there he's going to have his hookup right there. So just keep this bookmarked. So when the draft comes and you see the Houston Texans first pick next year, Marvin Harrison Jr. So he now has the hookup. So Burrow to Chase will now be Stroud to Harrison Jr.
Well, hey, thing is though, Joe Burrow, kind of was able to be fortunate enough to get hurt during that season as well too, and Cincinnati had no expectations. So it does sound similar, but I just don't know. I just feel like Joe Burrow is a little bit of a different type of animal. You know what I mean?
No doubt.
I think Joe Burrow is a little bit more into the football aspect of things, not the fame aspect of things, not being the talk of ESPN and the talk of FS1. The guy wants to win championships and things of that nature. Right now, CJ Stroud just is worried about how big his chain is going to be. That's what he's worried about. You know what I mean? These guys, it was funny because we got to draft week. These guys had so many bills. They didn't even know that I knew that. I said, damn, these guys got a lot of bills before they sign as soon as they sign their contract, because all this stuff is on credit. And sometimes it's not on your credit card. It's on the agent's credit card. So he's going to be taking out that portion of your check once, we get to, because he gets to see your money before you do. You know what I mean? So it is what it is at the end of the day. But I will have my answer for the Texans when we next week, when we do break out our overs and unders and our division winners for this upcoming season. So let's switch it up and move